Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. All about nutrition from your favorite dietitian. Everything you need to digest in your mind. Tips with Tony. Tips with Tony. Making you healthier one bite at a time. With Tony. Woo!
Hello and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. Today we are talking all about people pleasing. I am a recovering people pleaser, and I will be honest, rather recently I've been kind of falling back into my old ways. And it's everything from the little things to the big things. Why I decided to come on here and talk about people pleasing is because I had a big decision to make, and it really triggered some things in me. It brought up old emotions. About 5 years ago, I was in a really not great relationship. It was terrible. And I knew I needed to end things. And I was struggling so much with trying to hold on to the relationship, with trying to make it work. But really, when I was really sitting down with my therapist, I'll never forget this. She kept pointing out to me when I was trying to come up with all the reasons why to stay in the relationship. None of them had to do with my happiness. They all had to do with because I didn't want to disappoint him. I didn't want to hurt him. Meanwhile, the crazy ironic part to all of it was he was doing all of the things to hurt me. Like literally, it was crazy that in my mind, I had somehow made it okay that he had cheated on me. It was okay that he lied to me. It was okay that he was obnoxious to my family members. It was okay that he was super aggressive. It was okay for whatever reason. Why? I mean, we know the story now. If you've read my book, Once Upon a Diet, or you've heard me talk on my podcast before, I didn't really know my worth. I really didn't know my worth. And that's for another topic for another day. I think it's worth noting that sometimes the people pleasing in us can be as a result of unhealed trauma. And this is where working with a therapist can be incredibly helpful. And then I think there's just part of us that's kind of how we're designed, or maybe the environment we grew up in. I mean, there's so many factors, but I'll also share that if you guys know about the Enneagram, you may or may not know about the Enneagram, but basically it's like a personality test. And I am an Enneagram 9. And the Enneagram 9 is known for being the peacemaker, which obviously there's pros and cons to it, right? And so as a peacemaker, it's like you don't want to disrupt the peace. You don't want to rock the boat. And so take that from like my childhood trauma to crazy relationships to just being designed as a peacemaker. Well, there you go. You got a people pleaser right there. And I know a lot of people can relate to this regardless of your Enneagram. There's many reasons why we fall into that. But what I wanted to share with you today was 3 tips that you can incorporate and you can implement to hopefully recover from that people pleasing thing, right? The reason why we want to do it, guys, is because you'll live such a more aligned life, such a more happier life, such a more energetic life, such a more just true life of like really who you are rather than like living on the terms of other people, right? So that's the reason why I want to help you to recover from being a people pleaser, right? So I'm going to give you guys 3 tips. And before I kind of go on, I will share what kind of triggered this. And this is going to be for anybody who's struggling with like the little day-to-day people pleasing, you know, where like if it's something along the lines of maybe staying at work a little bit later, you know, saying yes to that extra project, or like, you know, cooking for the family when you're physically exhausted, or like saying yes to your neighbor to babysit their kid when it's your only day off. Like those, I guess you can consider smaller little things, and I'm using air quotes. And then also like the big things, which I'm going to share my story today, but also kind of what I just shared about like being in that relationship and not wanting to end it. It could also be like being absolutely miserable in your job. It doesn't work with your lifestyle at all. They're not great to you there. The hours are crappy. You don't get time with your family, or you don't get to do the things that are important to you, but yet you're holding on to it and you're afraid of quitting, not because you don't have other offers. You probably have other job offers and all this stuff, but because you know that they would be short-staffed without you. And so that's why you're staying in the job. That's a big thing, right? Right, guys? That's something that we can't keep living our lives on other people's terms, right? So whether you're struggling with like the day-to-day quote unquote little things, or like the big life-changing decision-making things, I think you're going to really find these tips valuable. So before I kind of go dive into the tips, I'll tell you what triggered this. So as you guys know, or maybe you don't, I am a newly licensed real estate agent. So I'm choosing to have a dual career. I absolutely love the Tips with Tony company and business, and helping people find balance in their eating habits and heal their relationship with food and feel confident inside and out. It's absolutely what I absolutely love to do. But I also want something else. And I was just really, reflecting and thinking, and, I like to learn. I like things that are exciting and new, and I'm excited to become an expert in another field. So long story short, I became a licensed real estate agent. I had thought that I had found the broker that I was going to work for, and I was really excited at first, but pretty quickly things started to take a turn, and I ignored a lot of the red flags like I usually do, because I was hopeful, right? I really wanted this to work out, because also I'm just very anxious to get started. But I had spoken to a couple other people who have been in the business for a long time, and they had actually advised me, take your time with this. You don't have to decide right away, because if you choose the wrong broker to start with, or the wrong company to start with, you're going to just be right back here a year from now. And you don't want to have to kind of, pull out all this effort and energy and have it be wasted. And I heard them and I understood them. But if you know me, I'm stubborn. And I love to just figure out what I'm doing and just go for it. And that can be really helpful in certain times. And then in other times, it can be really problematic. And as much as I think I'm getting to my goal faster, it's actually pushing me further and further away from it. So I really needed to take some time and to think. And I was really struggling with making this decision. I had already decided I didn't want to disappoint the broker. And I was, in the meantime, though, because I was very slow moving, I wasn't getting a lot of guidance, a lot of support. If I had continued to choose this original broker, I wouldn't have been able to officially start until like mid-August. And I've been a licensed real estate agent. I found out that I passed this New York State exam on July 5th. I thought I'd be at least being able to be in the office and be an observer and to really just soak it all in until, and get my feet wet. And I really wouldn't even be able to start until mid-August. And I could already kind of tell that even me starting, like, it would kind of be like half-ass sort of like guidance and very little structure. I was the one having to call and ask, like, okay, what are next steps? It was clearly not a good fit for me. And I knew that for probably, at least 2 to 3 weeks before I decided to, have that hard conversation and make the phone call and let the person know that I was no longer interested. So, because in the meantime, I did take the advice from the other people that I really look up to that have been in the business for a long time. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to interview with other brokerages, something that I probably should have done from the beginning. Actually, I know I should have done it from the beginning. But I didn't really try hard enough. I didn't really pursue it enough because I just so badly just wanted to start and just jump in. And, I ended up finding a brokerage that literally has everything I was looking for, because it's very common in the real estate world to hear that, I've heard a lot that you kind of just like figure it out as you go. And I'm totally on board with that. Like I'm fine with figuring it out as I go. But I know that it can happen faster if you have the right support. And this company that I could announce it, but I'm going to I don't want to jinx it, where I'm supposed to start next Friday. Like when you guys hear this, I'll be starting in a couple days. So I'll probably announce it soon. But this company has all of the things to support brand new real estate agents. It literally has everything that I was looking for, checks all the boxes. I'm really, really excited. So I'll talk about that another time. But all that to say, I had to have that hard conversation to end. It's like funny, right? It's like in this situation, it was like ending a relationship before it got even started. But for some reason, I was afraid of disappointing that person. And so it was really hard for me to kind of stand in my power and stand in my truth and just make that call. But I gave myself a pep talk. I actually went on Instagram and I went on my stories and I gave myself that pep talk. And I did that for actually, this is a bonus tip, guys. I did that because often when I help other people, it helps me, help myself, but also for that layer of accountability. Like I knew that if I went public about the fact that I know that I'm making a choice right now that is not for me, and yet I'm staying stuck in it, like, those feelings, just terrible feelings came up for me. And I'm like, I knew that by speaking about it on my story, that was the strength that I needed, the accountability I needed to be like, wow, I did this. I'm leading by example. I'm not just talking about it, I'm being about it. And we all get triggered. We all fall back. And like, I really noticed that shift in me. I'm really proud of myself for doing it too. So anyways, trust me, I'm going to get to the tips like really, really soon. I hope you're still with me. But yeah, so that's really it. So here's what the tips that you can do. So whatever you're struggling with right now, if you're in a current situation where you constantly find yourself saying yes to things you really wish you had said no to, well, these are the tips for you. So tip number 1 is take your time. It's okay to not give an answer right away. Okay. I know that space in between is making it it's like causing a lot of anxiety, and probably you're really, really flustered, but I promise you that you're going to feel much better in the long run. And then you won't have to redo some things like I said yes, and then I had to say no, and then I had to change my mind. And it's okay to change your mind, but the best thing you could actually do is just wait it out instead of saying yes right away. Because when you say yes right away, you're going to continue to find yourself in these situations that you didn't actually want to be in. And it'll be like an afterthought, but you'll be in it. And that's where we get frustrated. That's where we have this built up resentment. That's when we just have like lack of energy. It really pulls from us. It's not really who we're meant to be, right? So that's tip number 1 is just take your time. You don't have to give an answer right away. And tip number 2 is about practicing certain phrases that can actually help you with that. Okay. So if you know in your gut, there's also a really good suggestion. Like if it's not a hell yes, then it's probably a no. Right. So if it's like, in that moment, you don't want to do it and it's not for you, instead of getting caught up in the story that you're telling yourself about how this person's going to like hate you because of it, whatever, just give yourself a minute and just practice these phrases and it'll probably make it a lot easier for you. So it could be as much as like, I wish I could, but I have other plans, right? It could just be a no. You don't have to explain yourself. I think a lot of people get caught up in feeling like they need to explain themselves. Obviously, it's dependent on the situation and the people at play, but you can just say no. The way to give yourself space, say something like, I will check my schedule and get back to you when I know, right? I will check my schedule and I'll get back to you. A simple, that doesn't work for me. Or I don't want to, right? You can be firm. It really depends on who you're setting the boundary with. And then there's other options where it could be like, it would be better for me if. So it's actually putting it about you rather than the other, some of the other phrases might just, make it more about them. So it would be better for me if. So it's not saying yes, it's not saying, it's not saying yes, and it's also not saying no. It's just kind of giving another option that would work better for you. Okay. And I know that it can be hard at first, trust me, but it gets a lot easier. Okay. So that tip number 1 is take your time. Tip number 2 is practice these phrases. Tip number 3, this one is a hard one, but it will get easier in time. So tip number 3 is be okay with disappointing people. Like they might not, let me back up a bit. I would say 90% of the time, the person that you thought was going to be disappointed probably isn't actually, and you realize, or they'll get over it a lot faster than you kind of are telling yourself in your head. And then, there's going to be people that are disappointed. Like it's going to be, they are going to be disappointed, and you just have to be okay with that because you need to know that this isn't about them, it's about you, right? And I really struggled with this one for a long, 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 long time. And then the thing that even recently when this came up for me, the thing that I always reflect back to is this question, and I'm going to share this question with you, and I want you to really let it sink in, really let it sink. So the question is why is it not okay to disappoint others when on the other side of that, we're okay with disappointing ourselves? Let me repeat that. Why is it not okay to disappoint others when on the other side of that, we are disappointing ourselves? Like, why is that okay? Why is it okay for us to like be disappointed in ourselves, but it's not okay to disappoint other people? Like, right? So you might want to go a little deeper with that. You might want to do some, self-worth, self-image, sort of, healing or self-discovery, whether that's therapy, journaling, meditating, going for a walk, like kind of unpacking where that comes from. But when you get to it, the core of that, it's like, you just forgot who the F you are. Like, you are important, you are special, you are powerful, you are an asset, you are incredible, and you do not deserve anything less than that. Okay? So you deserve to feel just as good as you were hoping the other person was going to feel, if not better. Okay? You matter most. Your opinion of you matters most. Your energy matters most. Everything about you matters the most. And so when you really start to harness that and really start to believe that, then believe it or not, all those other things are actually a lot easier to do. So maybe I should have flipped it, but sometimes it's easier to work backwards. All right. So tip number 1, take your time. Tip number 2, practice certain phrases. And then tip number 3, just be okay with disappointing people. I know it's so simple, right? How to recover from being a people pleaser. Be okay with not people pleasing. But it sounds simple, but like implementing it, obviously not so much. But like I said, it will get better. It will get easier in time, and you'll just be living a much more happier, healthier, more productive life. I mean, we didn't even talk about this on like a practical level of like health and wellness, right? And just like making time for you. It's like sometimes the things that you're saying yes to are filling up this space where you could be taking a nap, going to bed earlier, getting a workout in, going to the grocery store, cooking some food, right? The practical things of how we want to take care of you more, like those self-care activities, the things that really move the needle in your health and happiness, right? You might not even have the space to do that because you're constantly worrying about other people and pouring into other people when we need to start pouring into yourself. Okay. So I hope you found this helpful. If anything I said in this episode resonated with you, I'm going to tell you we're doing a masterclass, but I feel like right now I need to invite you to go grab a copy of my book, Once Upon a Diet. It is on Amazon. There's an audio version. There's, obviously an ebook version and then the paperback. I talk a lot about my tendency of people pleasing in there, and also just kind of figuring out what works best for you, because something I say a lot is the more you love your decisions, the less you need others to love them. And I think it's kind of all correlated here. So if you haven't gotten a copy of my book, Once Upon a Diet, definitely go and grab your copy. Like I said, it's on Audible, ebook, and obviously you can get the paperback. So it's all on Amazon. I will put the link in the show notes. And then if you haven't heard, me and my good friend Jamie, who is also a registered dietitian, we are hosting an online free masterclass for you, all about healing your gut and feeling confident inside and out. And so we're going to be talking a lot about how your gut health and your relationship with food are very, very tightly correlated, and how you can heal not just your gut, but also your mind, and how it all works together. So if you haven't signed up for that free masterclass, make sure you go to the link in my show notes to do so. It will be on Tuesday, August 16th from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. We are going to be giving a lot of help, a lot of free bonuses for those who stay all the way to the end. If you can't attend live, yes, you will be able to get the replay, but if you can clear your schedule and clear your calendar and show up for that live masterclass, it'll be hosted on Zoom. Like you're going to get a lot from the replay, just watching it, observing it, but I have a feeling like those who attend live are really going to get a lot more out of it, because we'll also do a little Q&A at the end, so you can also get your questions answered. So make sure you go to the link in my show notes to get a copy of my book and sign up for the free masterclass. If you found this episode helpful, share it with a friend. take a screenshot of it, put it on your story. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Anything that you can do to support would be such a huge help. Obviously, the more subscribers we have, the more people who listen, the more downloads, then that means that more and more people are learning to live in their truth, live in their power, and live a healthier, happier life because of it. So thank you so much for listening. As always, this is Toni Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time.